and welcome to the session on aims and objectives of teaching social science. Teaching of social science. The social sciences encompass diverse concerns of society and include a wide range of content drawn from the disciplines of history, geography, political science, economics, and sociology. Aims, objectives, and behavior objectives are terms used to indicate educational goals. Aim is a foreseen end that gives direction to an activity and motivates behavior. Objective is an end in view or purpose of a course of action or a belief. Features of social studies. The subject social studies has the following features. Social studies is a compound rather than a mixture where the ingredients lose their identity and something emerges out of the combination. The central theme of teaching social studies is socio-economic and occupational usefulness, and the main objective is to prepare the child for wholesome social living, which include family, community, state, and nation, and in fact the entire humanity. Social studies is the applied branch of social sciences introduced in the school curriculum with a view to develop proper attitudes, sensibilities, and skills in future citizens. The concept of social studies are continuously growing and changing with changing social process. The concept of social studies includes commitment to action. Scope and subject matter of social studies. The term scope refers to the breadth, comprehensiveness, variety, and the extent of learning experiences to be provided through a program of teaching. The scope of social studies is very vast and wide, and in fact as wide as the world itself and as lengthy as the history of man. According to Michaelis, the breadth of social studies program should provide for a variety of experiences so that the child's learning will be well rounded and well balanced. It provides an overall integrated outline of minimum essential functional knowledge from various disciplines. The main focal point of the study of social sciences. Social studies includes the study of relationships between man and man, man and institutions, man and earth, and man and goods, and also the interrelationship of historical, geographical, and social aspects. How the people meet different needs depend upon their environment and culture and their interdependence for satisfaction of these basic needs, the ways in which people solve the problems of today and tomorrow. It traces the story of how man has developed through ages, how his life has been influenced by environment, how institutions grown out, and how he is struggling today. The study of actual working of social institutions, structure of society, social forces, current affairs, and the study of international affairs based on mutual respect, understanding, and brotherhood. Social studies break the habit of compartmentalizing knowledge into geography, history, civics, and economics. Aims and objectives of teaching social studies. Goals are the long-range desired outcomes of instruction. Objectives are the specific and measurable outcomes of instruction. Goals and objectives of the social studies are related directly to our society's expectations, concerns, and mandates. Aims are general and broad, while objectives are precise and exact. Aims are not easily attainable, common to more than one subject, ultimate destination, and important from the point of view of nation. Objectives are easily attainable, specific to the subject, and important from the point of view of a classroom. Contribution of social studies to the goals of education. The objectives of each area of the curriculum should be related to the primary goals of education. When this is done, one may identify unique contributions of each area of the curriculum and maintain a unifying sense of direction. The following are the areas in which social studies contribute to the primary goals of education. Thinking ability. Thinking ability can be developed in the social studies via problem solving, critical and creative thinking, and related inquiry process. Thinking can reach high levels as students state and check hypotheses, synthesize ideas in creative ways, and evaluate proposals, procedures, and plans of action. Also important are the main ways in which open-mindedness, objectivity, respect for the views of others, and other attitudes can be nurtured in the social studies. Self-realization. The social studies can contribute to self-realization by providing experiences that foster maximum growth of each individual's potentialities. The capabilities of gifted, average, and less able children may be increased by the use of varied approaches to the study of topics, problems, and issues. Human relationships. Concern for others and open-mindedness are stressed when differences in ways of living and the contributions to human welfare of various individuals and groups are studied. Appreciation of the vital functions of the home, school, church, and other basic institutions are also nurtured. Economic efficiency. The social studies contribute to the goal by providing information and experiences that develop concepts, skills, and attitudes related to man's use of limited resources to meet his needs and his unlimited wants. Civic responsibility. Civic responsibility is given direct attention in the social studies. The acceptance and discharge of responsibilities by the children themselves at home, in school, and in the community are first considerations. Learning how to learn. Learning how to learn is receiving high priority in new program of instruction. The social studies along with other areas of curriculum contribute directly making the ideal lifelong learning a reality. Social studies curriculum abounds with opportunities to contribute to the broad goals of education at all levels of instruction. The aims of the social studies may be expressed as follows. The enrichment and development of the lives of pupils to the greatest of pupils to take their places in a democratic society in such a way as to make their country a better place in which to live. In order to accomplish these aims, certain specific objectives must be set up and achieved. The inculcation of the spirit of cooperation, the development of tolerance and understanding and sympathy for mankind, as well as practice in constructive thinking, reasoning, and a critical judgment should be the main purposes of the social studies in achieving the general objectives of education. The specific aims, therefore, should include the training of certain definite knowledge, advancement in intellectual life, and a concomitant learning such as habits, skills, ideals, attitudes, and appreciations. Bining and Bining classified these aims into following categories. Acquiring knowledge, the development of reasoning power and critical judgment, training in independent study, the formation of habits and skills, training in desirable patterns of conduct. Instructional objectives of teaching social studies. Teaching social studies powerfully and authentically begins with a deep knowledge and understanding of the subject and its unique goals. Social studies programs prepare students to identify, understand, and work to solve the challenges facing our diverse nation in an increasingly interdependent world. Education for citizenship should help students acquire and learn to use the skills, knowledge, and attitudes that will prepare them to be competent and responsible citizens throughout their lives. Several trends are evident in statement of objectives of the social studies. Conceptual outcomes are being defined in terms of concepts, themes, and generalizations as they may be developed in the social studies. Instructional objectives are defined in behavioral terms in order to facilitate planning, selection of materials and evaluation. Objectives of the social studies range from broad goals for the total program to specific instructional objectives in teaching plans. The four main types are conceptual, inquiry, skill and affective objectives. The following summary of goals for overall program is illustrative of objectives being stressed at the present time. Conceptual objectives: to develop understanding of data, concepts, themes and generalizations, including the ability to identify and describe. Roles, interaction and interdependence of individuals at home, in the neighborhood and community, in our state and nation and in other lands. Functions of the family, government, education and other institutions in our country and in other lands. Basic human activities common to all societies and aesthetic and religious expression. Contributions of individuals and groups to man's changing cultural heritage. Aspirations and problems of minority groups, their cultural heritage. Environmental problems and concerns, causes and effects of pollution and steps necessary to ensure a high quality of life in our environment. Purposes, processes and problems of decision making in the community, state, nation and other lands. Geographical, historical, social, economic and political factors related to topics and settings selected for study. Democratic beliefs essential to our way of life. Inquiry objectives: to develop competence in using modes, methods and processes of inquiry, including the ability to use such inquiry processes as recalling, observing, comparing, contrasting, classifying, interpreting, defining, generalizing, analyzing, synthesizing, inferring, predicting, hypothesizing and evaluating. Make plans for investigating topics and problems, collecting data, organizing and processing data, deriving conclusions and assessing outcomes and procedures of inquiry. State objectives that include role, division of labor and other key concepts that are helpful in observing, interpreting, classifying and using other inquiry processes. State generalization based on adequate evidence that join two or more concepts in a meaningful relationships, such as families around the world use resources to meet their needs for food, shelter and clothing. Distinguish warranted from unwarranted conclusions, factual statements from statements of opinion, generalizations from supporting evidence, statement of what ought to be from statements of what is, and time-bound or space-bound generalizations from those of broad applicability. Demonstrate in discussion the importance of substantive judgments when evidence is inadequate, testing hypotheses, assessing the basis for predictions and other attitudes and effective inquiry. Skill objectives: to develop competence in using basic skills in the social studies, including social skill, living and working together, learning self-control and self-direction, sharing ideas and experiences with others. Study skills and work habits: use a variety of data sources, locate, gather, appraise, summarize and report information. Read social studies material critically, listen critically and study independently. Interpret and make maps, graphs, tables, timelines and other graphic materials. Interpret sequences of events, time periods, chronology and trends. Organize material from several sources and present it in pictorial, oral, written and graphic form. Conducting inquiry on problem of interest. Group work skills: working cooperatively in organizations and assuming various roles. Participating and leading group discussions. Participating in group decision making. Intellectual skills: Defining and identifying problems, forming and testing hypotheses, analyzing and synthesizing data, thinking critically, sensing cause and effect relationships, recognizing and valuing components in decision making. Affective objectives, to identify, describe and demonstrate in individual behavior and group activities, attitudes, values and feelings of individuals who recognizes personal feelings and opinions as possible sources of error and bias that influence interpretations and point of view. Consider multiple causes of events, evidence that is contrary to personal views and the limitations of generalizations. Search for new perspective, creative ideas, divergent views and new ways of dealing with issues and problems. Are sensitive to the influences of moral, ethical and spiritual values in human affairs. Value democratic beliefs, human freedom, civic responsibilities, enlightened loyalty and other aspects of our heritage. Respect duly constituted authority, due process of law and procedures for making changes. Have self-respect and show respect for others regardless of race, creed, social and economic status and natural origin. Examine critically the actions of those entrusted with the general welfare of individuals and groups. Evaluate their own actions and the efforts of others to implement democratic beliefs. Are open-minded, responsible, cooperative and creative and show concern for others in groups and ways. Objectives of teaching various social sciences. The following are the specific objectives of the teaching different social sciences. History, to accumulate certain definite knowledge of the past wisely chosen to explain the present in accord with the general aims of secondary education. To the development of abilities needed for important and effective investigation of social materials. To the understanding of such fundamental principles as the continuity of history. To inculcate attitudes of historical mindedness and scientific mindedness and such other attitudes as will aid in training for citizenship. Geography, to help students identify the varieties in the distribution of physical and economic phenomena over the surface of the earth. To help students analyze the way of life of the people all over the world, their problems in the light of their varying environment and their stages of economic and technological development. To develop an appreciation of interdependence of various geographical regions. Civics, to promote active and intelligent citizens who have the necessary civic competence to participate in the community affairs effectively. To develop an intelligent understanding of the structure and working of the civic and political institutions of India. To produce better citizens and to aid pupils in the formation of a higher type of civic character. Economics, to teach modern economic principles by observation and through understanding of current practices. To apply sound economic theories to everyday life. Sociology, to develop a way of thinking about social data and social phenomena. To participate effectively in the activities of his community, the state, the nation and the world. Value of teaching social studies. The values embodied in our democratic form of government with its commitment to justice, equality and freedom of thought and speech are reflected in social studies classroom practice. Social studies teachers develop awareness of their own values and how those values influence their teaching. They assess their teaching from the multiple perspectives and when appropriate adjust it to achieve a better balance. Students are made aware of potential policy implications and taught to think critically and make decisions about a variety of issues, modeling the choices they will make as adult citizens. Students learn to assess the merits of competing arguments and make reasoned decisions that include consideration of the values within alternative policy recommendations. Through discussions, debates, the use of authentic documents, simulations, research and other occasions for critical thinking and decision making, students learn to apply value-based reasoning when addressing problems and issues. Values in teaching social studies. Feelings of uncertainty, insecurity, ignorance or misunderstanding many social studies teachers, particularly when it comes to value education. A systematic development and examination of values, however, and the process of valuation, receiving, responding, valuing, organization and characterization are becoming an increasingly significant part of social studies education. Values are the criteria for determining levels of goodness, worth or beauty. The process of valuing is what we go through when we make judgments about things, events and people that we'll encounter in our day-to-day life. In contemporary social studies literature, values education carries several meanings which contribute to the lack of consensus concerning value education research. It is useful at this point to consider the words of sociological thinker Weber, who declared that one cannot judge values like facts because values are ideas, the outcome of personal contemplation and individual choice. Let us make a glance to the major points we have dealt so far. The vitality of a democratic dependence upon the education and participation of its citizens. The need for an informed citizenry was the very impetus for the creation of free public education in the nation. If the nation is to develop fully the readiness of its public to carry forward its democratic traditions, it must support progress toward attainment of the vision of powerful social studies teaching and learning. The breadth of social studies program should provide for a variety of experiences so that the child's learning will be well-rounded and well-balanced. It draws material from all the social sciences relating to the study of human relations, human institutions and human behaviors. It provides an overall integrated outline of minimum essential functional knowledge from various disciplines. Teaching social studies powerfully and authentically begins with a deep knowledge and understanding of the subject and its unique goals. Social studies programs prepare students to identify, understand and work to solve the challenges facing our diverse nation in an increasingly interdependent world. Now, you can attempt to answer the given questions here. What are the features of social studies? Define social studies. Explain the significance of social studies in secondary school curriculum. Teaching social studies powerfully and authentically begins with a deep knowledge and understanding of the subject and its unique goals. Discuss. What is the contribution of social science to the goals of education? What are the main focal points of the study of social sciences? For the reference, you can go through the books and sites listed here. Teaching of Social Science, a Practical Approach by J.C. Agarwal, published by Vikas Publishing House, New Delhi. www.socialstudies.org. The Teaching of Social Studies by S.K. Kocha, published by Sterling Publishers Private Limited, New Delhi. Teaching History in Secondary Schools by NCERT, New Delhi. Thank you for watching the program. Hope that this session was beneficial to you all. Take care.